Hello and welcome to For the Tech of It. If you're a Mac user, then you are in the right place because in this episode, I'm going to show you how to find open source alternatives to some of the proprietary software you're accustomed to using. Let's get going. There are quite a lot of free and open source alternatives available for the Mac as well. What we're going to do today is I'm going to start, let me open up my browser here, and I want to show you today a few different applications. I won't go into any real great detail on them and their functionality, but I definitely want to show you that there are some very good alternatives to some of the more common proprietary software that you may be more accustomed to on the Mac. So this is my home page for the Tech of It. There's a website that I want you guys to check out. If we go to favorites and under free software, I have a link here to a website called Alternative 2. We'll click here and open up that website. And Alternative 2 is a great site. I use it periodically when I'm looking for different types of applications and I'm not exactly sure what all is offered out there for from an open source or even a proprietary perspective. All right, so what you can do with Alternative 2 is, let's say you happen to be a fan of the Adobe suite of products. So if we type Adobe here, as you see, there are a whole, I think the entire Adobe suite of products is listed here. So let's go to, I don't know, Illustrator. And what Alternative 2 will do is it will bring up a list of alternatives to Adobe Illustrator. And you can filter that down by the platform that you're running on. In this case, it's the Mac. So if we click on, actually, let's not click on Mac yet. So as you'll see here, it'll show you whether the application is proprietary, whether it's free and proprietary, whether it's free and open source. And as you'll see, here's the name of one of the applications, in this case Inkscape. It's available for Mac, Windows, Linux, Windows S, I don't even know if that's still around, BSD, Snapcraft, FlatHub, so forth and so on. All right, so as you scroll through the list, you can read up a little bit on that particular piece of software. You can look at what other people are saying about it, right? And the list goes on and on and on. There are thousands of applications in here. But the ones I'm going to focus on today, and I wanted to make sure you were aware of this website, Alternative 2, and again, you can get to it from my website, For the Tech of It. You can filter all your software based on the platform you're running on. And since this episode is really focused on you folks using a Mac, like I have here, this is my Mac, as you scroll through the list, you'll see various categories of software. So I like using the Firefox browser. That's what we're running right now over Safari. VLC Media Player, Bitwarden. I use this as well for helping me to manage my logins and passwords. GIMP, we'll take a peek at that one today. LibreOffice, we'll look at that. So the list goes on and on and on. There are just so many great alternatives out there, free and open source alternatives. Here's Thunderbird. I use this for email. So, and there are pages and pages of these applications. But the ones we're going to, let me close this out. The ones we're going to focus on today are the two different categories. One is graphics editing software, and the other is, I would argue, the most common type is Office type software, alternatives to Microsoft Office. So one of which is OnlyOffice, and we'll take a peek at that one. The other being LibreOffice. This is the one that I use quite a lot. Both OnlyOffice and LibreOffice are free and open source. Both of them actually offer, there's some commercial options to both of them, but the free and open source ones are the ones we're going to be focusing on here today. Now in terms of graphics editing software, there's GIMP, the GNU Image Manipulation Program. There's Krita, so if you're interested in it's an open source paint type program. I like using this one as well to help me to edit some of the thumbnails and images you guys see on my channel. It's real easy to use. And of course, Darktable. So if you're into photography, photo editing, what have you, the alternative to, I think Adobe has a product called Lightroom. An alternative to Lightroom would be Darktable. So we're going to take a quick peek at all of these today in this episode. So we'll get started here now. LibreOffice, and this is purely my opinion, of course, folks, but LibreOffice, and I've tried multiple free and open source Office suites, and we're going to take also look at OnlyOffice, which is another very good Office suite product. But LibreOffice, hands down, in my opinion, is by far the most feature-rich free and open source alternative to Microsoft Office out there. Now, what comes with LibreOffice? Here we are on their website. Of course, there's their word processor, which is called Writer, their spreadsheet program, which is called Calc, their presentation software, that's Impress. They have a drawing program, and what's interesting about this drawing program is not only can you create architecture type drawings, for example, network diagrams, flowcharts, things of that nature, organizational charts. You can also use it to both read and edit, make changes to PDF files. Base is their equivalent to Microsoft Access. That's included with LibreOffice. There's a formula editor for creating mathematical formulas, and you can, once you create your formulas, you can include them in your documents and drawings, and spreadsheets, presentations, what have you. So, as well as a host of other capabilities that this product has. Now, there's a version for Mac. There's a version for Windows. In fact, let me go to download here. I've already downloaded it, but I wanted to show you what options are available to you. Okay, so the latest version, there's a version for Intel-based Macs. This is an Intel-based Mac that we're using today. Of course, there's a version for Apple Silicon, so if you're on one of the M1 or M2 processors, LibreOffice has a version for that as well, or should I say a compile for that as well. Of course, it supports Linux and Windows. So as you can see, it's completely cross-platform here. There's even a version of this called LibreOffice that runs on iOS devices, iPads, as well as Android devices. So you'll definitely want to, if you're interested in that, check that out, and it's called Collabra. And it's essentially LibreOffice, but the team that works it has moved it to the mobile and mobile platforms as well. All right, so that's the website. Let's now take a look at LibreOffice, the software. All right, so here we are in LibreOffice. Now, what I currently have open in LibreOffice are 3 different files. I've got this Word document called Pet Volunteer, that's what you're seeing here. I've got the LibreOffice presentation program open. So there's my dinosaur PowerPoint presentation. And I've got, of course, the spreadsheet open here. All right, so LibreOffice, again, you can import Microsoft Office documents. You can make changes to them, save them back, share them back with users on Microsoft Office. I've been doing that for a long time and haven't had any issues with it. So LibreOffice also has the ability, as does OnlyOffice, has the ability to allow you to export out any of these artifacts in PDF format. So we'll do that here. So the way you'll export it is you go to Export As and choose PDF. I'm going to do all pages. And as you can see, there are a number of PDF options that LibreOffice offers you. So if you're interested, setting passwords, doing file encryption, even setting digital signatures on your PDF documents, then definitely LibreOffice is the way to go. So we'll click Export. And we'll give it a name. We'll call it PDF-Pet Volunteer. We'll save it. And now that it's saved, let's open it up in LibreOffice. And as I mentioned earlier, LibreOffice has a drawing program. So when we go to open a PDF, it'll open it in that drawing program. So let's find our PDF. Here we are. Click Open. And it should open the PDF up, yep, in the drawing program. So here it is. Here's our PDF. Now, as I said earlier, you can, with the drawing program, you can actually make changes or edit your PDF. I'm going to put a text box here. And I can change the font on this. Maybe the font color. Do this one. We'll center that. Then we will export that. And we'll give the PDF a new name, so all pages. And we'll call this one, I think, updated. Oops, updated. PDF volunteer. We'll save it. We will close out. Then we'll go back in and reopen it. This time we'll choose updated. Open. And what you'll see is our updated PDF with the text box message in it. So again, I don't think you're going to be disappointed with LibreOffice. If you really need a very feature-rich, out-of-the-box Microsoft Office alternative, honestly, you just can't go wrong with LibreOffice. Okay, so this is the OnlyOffice website. It's onlyoffice.com. OnlyOffice is the other free and open source Office Suite solution next to LibreOffice. Now, I've used this one in the past as well, and it's pretty good. One thing to make note of, and I think I might have mentioned this earlier, but if I didn't, both OnlyOffice as well as LibreOffice offer a commercial option, a for-pay option where you get support as well as other functionality and capabilities. Now here on the OnlyOffice site, if we go to products and features, you'll see that they offer quite a few different options here. They offer, for example, something called OnlyOffice Workspace. So that includes, documents, mail, as you see here, CRM projects, calendaring. You can get it to where they can host it for you in the cloud, or you can get an enterprise edition where you can host it yourself on your own server. They also have versions for iOS and for Android. Now, the one we're going to be looking at today is the OnlyOffice for Desktop. So the OnlyOffice for Desktop, as you see here, supports Windows, Linux, and macOS. I've already downloaded it. And I encourage you definitely to come to the onlyoffice.com website, especially if you're running a business, whether it's a startup, a small business, whatever. Definitely come to their website and see what it is, what's different solutions and capabilities they provide. I think you might really like that. Okay, here we are in OnlyOffice. Very clean user interface. By default, it uses that Office-style ribbon format here at the top. With LibreOffice, and I didn't show you this earlier, it too allows you to use the Office ribbon-style toolbar at the top. I just didn't show you that earlier. It's something I overlooked, but never fear. If you like the more ribbon-style navigation that OnlyOffice provides out of the box, LibreOffice allows you to change the user interface very easily, just point and click, to go from the more legacy toolbar look and feel to this ribbon-style interface. Now, something else about OnlyOffice is that the way you navigate from one file to the next, and currently I have 4 different files open, they do it through this tabbed interface. So they're very tab-centric here in OnlyOffice. So here's the word processing program. We were looking at the spreadsheet a moment ago. This is the word processing program. This is the PDF viewer. So as you can see, this is the PDF we created in LibreOffice earlier. So we're viewing that here. And of course, this is their presentation programs. Here are the dinosaurs, right? So this is the OnlyOffice Desktop Edition. Again, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail with it. I just encourage you guys to, and gals, to download this software. Try it. Download and install LibreOffice. Try that out as well. And whichever one you like, stick with it. But OnlyOffice is pretty feature-rich as well. Not quite as feature-rich as LibreOffice is out of the box. But if you go to the OnlyOffice website and look at some of the other editions that they offer, their cloud editions, those editions do offer far, far more functionality. So just read up on it, see what it provides, and just choose the edition of it that you need most. So this is OnlyOffice. All right, so let's switch it up now. Now that you've had the opportunity to take a look at both LibreOffice, quick look at LibreOffice and OnlyOffice, let's now switch over to image editing, okay? So as I mentioned early on at the beginning of this episode, there are a ton of image editing programs available, free and open source, as well as some commercial proprietary solutions for the Mac. And for Mac owners, typically you'll find Mac users using Adobe products or Apple-related products. Well, let's take a look at 3 free and open source alternatives. We're going to look at GIMP, which is the GNU image manipulation program, Krita, and Darktable. All right, so let's start with GIMP. All right, so full disclosure here, I am by no means a graphic artist. I use these image editing programs for bare minimum image editing, creating thumbnails for the channel. I may add a few overlays to some images that or some graphics that I've created in the past, but I am by no means a graphics professional. So trust me when I tell you, it is better that you maybe scour YouTube a bit or just generally online for other videos related to, GIMP, Darktable, Krita, Inkscape, all of these other third-party free and open source image editing programs if you want to get more in-depth coverage of what these different products can offer. So this is just me showing you GIMP. It is very feature-rich. I mean, you can, in fact, let's go to their website again specifically. I want to show you a couple of things that they talk about here. All right, so these are just some of the areas where you can use GIMP. High-quality photo manipulation, original artwork, graphic design elements. Oh, by the way, GIMP also has an interface where you can create custom plugins. And you can also download and install custom plugins that others have created for GIMP to give it additional functionality. So I did want to mention that to you. Desktop publishing workflows, it's showing you some of the other free and open source solutions that you can leverage along with GIMP. And this talks about, I just mentioned the extensibility and flexibility, so you can create your own custom extensions for GIMP as well. So go to their website and kind of navigate around. Take a look at, the documentation in their tutorials and see if GIMP is the right solution for you. Again, I only use it for very basic image editing, adding text overlays to graphics or images that I've downloaded off the internet. I've also used it to do maybe adjust some of the brightness and contrast of some photos that I've taken in the past, and it generally works really well for that. So this is GIMP, and definitely go into their website and check out some of the features and functionality that it offers. So next up is Krita. Now Krita, interestingly enough, I find that I use Krita a bit more than I use the other two, Darktable or GIMP. Krita is, for some of the things that I like to do, it's a little bit easier to use. But the one thing that I do know about Krita, and I've seen examples of this online, if you are a freehand graphics artist and you like painting, then Krita is definitely a great alternative to applications like Photoshop and Illustrator. And what's even better about Krita, I think, is, and I've seen this online too, is that for folks who have these graphics tablets and you like to use a graphics tablet to do your freehand drawing, Krita is excellent for that. So Krita also has quite a few resources here online for you to learn how to use the product. You know, as you can see, I mean, this is awesome. I love artwork like this. And Krita lets you essentially do, or it teach you how the online resources will teach you how to use the product in that way. I think there's an entire section. Yeah, here it is. Welcome to the Krita 5 manual. So you definitely want to start here so you can become more familiar with this application. So let's go take a quick look at it. And this happens to be an image that I downloaded from online. I love that paper look, that very chalk type look with the hands holding the bird and everything. And this is being viewed in Krita. As you can see, you've got various types of controls here, tools available to you for doing text overlay. You can set different levels of opacity. And look at all the different brush presets that Krita has available to you. I mean, the list it's a really good, impressive list, and I really like the tool. I use this, in fact, to allow me to resize images. Sometimes I may have a photograph and I just want to shrink it down to a certain size, and Krita lets you do that fairly easily. Various options here in the menu. Let's say you want to scale image to new size. You specify the size here, click OK, and Krita will just dynamically scale it down and even maintain the aspect ratio if you want it to do that. So if you're a freehand artist, or if you're just trying to do some basic or even advanced image manipulation, GIMP is great, but Krita is exceptionally good as well. All right, so this is Darktable. Now, I found out about Darktable about 4 or 5 years ago when I was looking for a solution that would allow me to edit some of my photos. And Adobe has a product called Lightroom. But, I wasn't really into, or I really didn't need to subscribe, because Adobe uses a subscription model, to something like this, because I only really wanted to use the photo and image manipulation every once in a while. It just didn't make sense for me to pay for a product to do that. So went to Alternative 2, started looking around, and I happened across this product here. It's called Darktable. And what I liked about Darktable, and I haven't used it in a while, but what I like about it is that there are some features, enhancement features, that are already built into it. So for example, you can enable or disable, colorizations. You can adjust your color tones with it. Split toning. You can do from color to black and white, for example. It has some real nice features that allow you to zoom in on the image and make more precise adjustments to different regions of your photograph. So if you're a photographer and you're using Lightroom today, but if you're like me, you really don't need to use, or you're not interested in paying that price that Adobe charges you every year or each month to subscribe to the product, my ask is give Darktable a try first and see if it has, it's not as feature rich as Lightroom, but it comes pretty close. right? And if you're just doing basic image editing, you've got some raw photographs, JPEGs, what have you, coming off your cameras. Take a look at it, see if you like it. If it does what you need to do, well, there you go. You've just saved yourself a pretty penny. So this is Darktable. So if you found any of this content useful, please do click subscribe and hit that like button for me, as it really helps out the channel. I also want to personally thank all of you who've already subscribed. Now, while the Linux operating system is a great example of free and open source software, it is equally important to recognize that there are a plethora of free and open source applications out there that run not only on Linux, but on macOS, Windows, iOS, iPadOS, and Android too. Now, do check out my website at forthetechofit.net, because there what you'll find are other videos that I've posted in the past, as well as blogs and other interesting content. And until next time, peace.